So we were at one of our weekly Bible studies, followed by the charismatic prayer and praise, and the room was pretty full that night. And I recall there was a gentleman in front of me, and I had never seen him before. He was new to the group, and as we went into our quiet prayer time, I began to receive a word of knowledge. It began to develop in me, and I had learned by that point to recognize when it was a word of knowledge, because it began to become a force inside me and begin to well up to a point where I knew I just couldn't contain it. And so there was no doubt that it was a word for someone, and that I needed to let it out. So part of the process was discerning who the word was for. And I began to get a stronger and stronger feeling that it was for this gentleman in front of me. And it just began to get more and more powerful as time passed. And the word was quite simple. It was you're good enough now. You're good enough right now. There's nothing more you need to do. Come to me now. There's nothing more. And so as I spoke that word, the moment they left my lips, I began to see him just start to tremble. And I knew at that moment that they had penetrated right to his heart. And he began to shake, and he sat down, as I recall, and he began to weep, and because the word of knowledge was for him. And it was at that time then that we had an opportunity to pray for him. And he received Jesus Christ as his Savior that night. He had come in looking. He was looking for God and felt he wasn't worthy, and God gave him the word that he needed to hear to know that he was good enough right now. And so we also then I took him off to the side after that. And we began to just speak, and I was trying to explain to him what he had just experienced, that this had nothing to do with me, that God was just letting him know, I'm here for you, and I'm right here and right now, very personally. And I began to let him know that the things that were troubling him, that he was praying for, he had already received, that these things were already promises for him from God. And he couldn't quite understand that he could have received them before he could see them. And so I used the analogy that, analogy I began to use was that, it's like as if someone is flying from one city to the next to visit you. And I said to him, imagine you had a family member in California, and they called you and they told you they were getting on the plane to come visit. And in your mind, they're already here. You don't need to see them. You know that they're coming. You know that you're going to be with them. But he stopped me at that moment and he said, "How did you know?" And I said, "How did I know what?" And he said, "My sister is flying in from California tomorrow," or maybe it was next week, but my sister is flying in from California to help me with this particular problem. He was asking for prayer. So it was the second time God had spoken directly to him, with another word of knowledge, one I wasn't even aware of, and it was incredibly confirming for him and for me as well, to watch God work like that.